Good evening. Before we get started, commercial break. If you have your phones on, please at least put them on vibrate. Thank you. Also, registration to vote ends at midnight tonight. They are registering outside here and over there, and there's voter information. So please, if you haven't registered to vote, stop by one of the tables and make sure that you do. I'd like to welcome you to this forum for the Muhs Union High School District Governing Board candidates on the November 5th general election ballot, hosted by the Greater Verde Valley Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters, Northern Arizona. My name is Mary Chapuin, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters and your moderator for this evening's forum. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer, nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes any political party or candidate. Our mission is to empower voters. We envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate, where every citizen is registered to vote, informed about the candidates and issues, and votes. Tonight's forum is being videotaped by the Verde Independent for broadcasting on YouTube and other social media outlets. It probably will be available within 4 or 5 days, something like that. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates on why they want to be Muhs Union High School District Governing Board member. It is also an opportunity for candidates to answer questions submitted by the voters to the League of Women Voters prior to this forum. The goal for this forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. I would like to introduce our timekeeper, Robin Prudhomme-Bauer. Her role is to keep us on time. She has 3 signs: a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. She will raise the 1-minute sign, then the 30-second sign to tell you candidates how much time you have. When she raises the stop sign, you will get to finish your sentence, and then you must be done. The format for tonight's forum is in 3 parts. First is opening remarks. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the audience. Part 2 is questions submitted by the voters. The League solicited questions from the public prior to the forum. These questions have been compiled and organized for the moderator to ask at the forum. We received far more questions than time allowed this evening. Please contact the candidates directly if your question is not answered. And then finally, part 3 is closing remarks. The candidates will have 1 minute to give their final remarks on why they want to be a governing board member. As we get started, I would like to go over some guidelines for the forum. The moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for the candidates and the audience, with the goal of keeping the discussion moving forward. We ask 4 things of the candidates: be respectful of each other's points of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. The audience is asked to refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or non-support for the candidates and their comments. Time limits on responses to questions will be strictly observed. The moderator will have the responsibility for enforcing this. If the guidelines I just mentioned are not adhered to by the candidates or the audience, it is my responsibility to end the forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidates running for Muhs Union High School District Governing Board. There are 6 candidates running for 3 open seats. The candidates in alphabetical order are James Areola, Taylor Bell, Ashley Kopnick, Frank Navarez, Carol Antique, and Joe Wegwert. Ashley was unable to be with us this evening. The candidates will speak in an order drawn prior to the forum. We will rotate the order of answering the questions, and closing statements will be done in reverse order of the opening statements. We will begin with the opening statements, and I will read a statement that Ashley has sent to us ahead of time. My name is Ashley Kopnick. I am a 30-year resident of this community and a mom of 3 young kids. I have a strong commitment to the success of our schools. My focus is on supporting teachers, enhancing student safety, and improving academic achievement in core subjects like math, science, English, and history. I'm running to create a positive, collaborative environment where decisions are made with the best interests of our students in mind. My long-standing connection to this community and my experience as a parent give me the insight needed to advocate effectively for our school. My experience serving in various capacities has prepared me to step into this school board role with a strong foundation. I have served as a cheer coach for many years at different times, where I gained firsthand experience working with students, supporting their growth, encouraging them, and understanding their needs outside the classroom. As PTF president, I worked closely with parents, teachers, administrators to foster collaboration and drive initiatives that benefited the school community. Additionally, I helped start a security team at a previous school, ensuring a safe learning environment for all students and staff. These experiences, along with my dedication as a parent, have equipped me with the skills and insights needed to serve effectively on the school board. Thank you, Ashley Kopnick. So now we will begin with the other opening statements. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the audience and address the following. When did you move to the community and why? Why are you running for district governing board and why are you the best candidate? What is your experience serving in public office in the school district or at the school as a volunteer and in your career that prepares you to serve in this position? If an incumbent, what was your experience prior to being elected? And will we begin with Frank?
Thank you, Mary. I want to thank Mary and the League of Women Voters for the opportunity tonight. And quite frankly, this is great to see the number of people that are here showing interest in our school. I moved here 26 years ago from New Jersey. I have 3 incredible kids, all graduates from Muhs Union High School, and they're doing extremely well. So I know what Muhs can do and what it can be as far as our students are concerned. The reason I'm running is to help create and sustain a safe environment for all students to grow academically. In my experience with Muhs, my interactions in the past years, I have seen the quality of students and the quality of teachers at our high school. And I believe that we have some great students in our school, and I would love to be part of helping them become people who will continue to succeed post-graduation. I had the honor of serving and volunteering in different organizations throughout this community of ours. I served as the board of directors at the Old Town Mission, the Betty Turner Youth Program for Troubled Teens. I volunteered and participated with the Mat 4 Steering Committee. But for me, the greatest pleasure I had is working with young kids from middle school to high school in terms of coaching. I coached at the Muhs High School, and it just opened my eyes to who we have and who we are. I also, at one point, was the manager for a large company in New Jersey that totaled $80 million. So I know I can work with budgets, and I also know I can work with kids. So my heart is to allow myself to do whatever I can to make sure our kids, our students, become the best that they are to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Taylor? My name is Taylor Bell, and see how many people are here, how many people care about our high school and our students, so that's really awesome. I was born and raised here. My family has been in Cottonwood since the 20s. My grandparents came here, and my grandpa actually worked for one of the main builders way back when and helped build a lot of what the community is, so I'm very proud of that. Very deeply invested in our community for sure. My husband and I, we have 6 kids, so we have a haggle of kids, okay? It's kind of crazy, but they're all age ranges from 11 to 23, so we kind of have everything in between. We're really blessed, they're amazing kids, and part of the reason that I'm running is for them. I know how difficult it is to be a teenager, to be in high school nowadays, and I want to be a part of making that experience better. I have a master's degree in public health. I worked for Verde Valley Medical Center for about 9 years, and towards the end of my time there, I was managing all the emergency COVID projects, so that was very interesting. I also have certifications in process improvement, so I feel like that's something that I can bring to the table. Finding solutions is kind of part of what I do. So I'm just really excited to be a part of Muhs, to support the students and our parents and ultimately our community.
Thank you, Taylor.
Well, it's good to see you. My name is Joe Egbert. I'm glad to see I'm also glad to see so
Just
many
like a Joe,
people.
that we can't hear you, there's something like mic not working.
Is it on?
It is
Push the button.
on,
Has to be close to your.
nice and close.
That's better.
Nice and
That's
close.
better. Okay.
Just switch mics, please.
Can I do that, please?
Okay, Joe Egbert. And I am pleased also to see so many people here. This is really exciting. And thank you to the league, and thank you to all of you, and thank you to my fellow candidates as well. I've lived in Arizona for 17 years. Came to Cottonwood 2 years ago from Flagstaff. My background is I was a social studies teacher for 22 years. I spent 17 years teaching high school social studies. And so my master's degree is in American history. And then I went and got a PhD in curriculum at Miami University, Ohio. And then from there came to Northern Arizona University, where I served still as a professor for the last 17 years in the College of Education. So I come with a very deep commitment and experience in schools. I teach people to be teachers, but I'm also a parent. My kids are grown, but I do remember parenting them through school. I do remember the interactions, the concerns, all of those things, and of course, my own experience. And I think that public schools are where we learn about our rights, our privileges, our responsibilities in this democracy. So my commitments are to knowledge, truth over myth, complexity over simplicity, the embrace of difference and diversity over the normalizing heartbeat of sameness, committed to the safety of all students, and welcoming and supportive to LGBTQ students particularly, and students of color particularly.
Thank you. James?
Hi, everybody. I'm James Ariola, and I also am running for the Muhs Union High School Governing Board. My friend Carol Ann here had asked me to run along with Joe to help kind of refocus the board on the teachers, the students, the education, and the funding. I've lived here in Jerome for 7 years. I'm a Red Rooster in Cottonwood, and prior to that, I had a 35-year career as a civil engineer in New York and Florida. I believe it's the board's job to work with the super, teachers, and the administrators to maximize the school funding, attract and retain the best teachers and administrators, and provide the best possible well-rounded education to prepare our kids for life after high school. I think it's a shame that the current board voted against forwarding the bond issue to the voters, which means that we have forfeited about $20 million in funding for facility improvements. And I'm also dismayed at some of the recent focus on distractions like book banning and bathrooms. I believe parents should have a say in their children's education, and in fact, state and federal law guarantees that. But parents and community members should not get to impose their personal beliefs and opinions on the entire student body of a public high school. I think we have an amazing community here in the Verde Valley, and my hope is that Mingus can act as kind of a magnet school for all the kids in the district and be a unifying force in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Ann.
Oh, I see the smiling face. Thank you. I'm Carol Ann Teague, and I am running to be re-elected to the Mingus Union Governing Board. I've been on the governing board. This December will be 6 years. I've been president of the governing board. I've been vice president. I took us through COVID. God help us all. So that's what I'm doing. I never thought when I first ran 6 years ago to be on the governing board that I would be here 6 years later still asking to be re-elected. But I can't walk away. I can't turn my back. And I haven't, and that's why I'm here. You said if incumbent, what did I do before this? I'm a real estate broker. I've been a real estate broker in the Verde Valley for 35 years. I have lived in Cottonwood for, well, since you were 3, Jay. So, well, let's see, I'm 64. I was 16 when I moved here. You guys do the math. Why do I care about this? My family and I have graduated 5 grandkids. I graduated 1 boy from Mingus. And I love this school. I love this town. I care about these students. I care about these teachers. And I hope that you vote for the 3 of us. I'm watching Robin to see when that stop sign comes up. Dr. Joe and Jim and I stop. Okay.
Our next question will actually be for 1 minute, and it's regarding governing board responsibilities. What 5 duties are required of school board members? And would you consider all other management of the district to be the superintendent's duties?
Well, I can share what my understanding of school board, their function and what they do. So I do know that the school board is responsible for selecting a superintendent. We have a new, amazing superintendent that I am very excited to hopefully work with soon. I know that the school board is responsible for approving the budget annually, for helping to select policy. And I do believe that one of the most important things that a school board does is interact with the community and the teachers and the parents to make those things happen. So one of the things that I'm running on is parent involvement, but I also think that we have to have teachers present and involved as much as possible because they're the ones doing the hard work. They're the most important aspect of what we do at Mingus. So with all of those responsibilities that fall on our shoulders, I don't believe that it should be solely our decisions that carry forward the things that happen at our school. It has to be a collaborative effort.
Thank you. There's much there that I agree with. Particularly, the job of the board is to guide, advise the superintendent. The superintendent is the chief executive. The superintendent is prepared, trained, positioned to run the school district. Beyond that, we are involved in budgeting decisions. We are involved in setting sort of the North Star of where we're going as a district and what do we really want for our students. I also believe that educational leaders who have the preparation and the teachers who are on the ground.
Thank you, Joe. James?
Of course, the main responsibility is to hire hire the superintendent, but through the super, attract and retain the best teachers and the best administrators. Also, try to get funding, there we go, but also spend it responsibly, according to agreed upon budgets. It's important to have the best possible student outcomes, increase our graduation rate to the extent possible, get our students out to colleges or get them to good jobs or the like, and to generally set the tone for the administration of the schools, which, along with that is just attend board meetings and do our homework before the board meetings for agenda items and kind of consult the experts and weigh the facts and make the best decisions for all the students and the teachers.
Thank you. Carol Ann?
I love this question. Taylor and Joe and Jim have touched on the official job of the governing board. So I'm going to talk about the unofficial job of the governing board. We are the face of the school. We're the official face of the school. The real face of the school are all of these wonderful teachers that I see here. Unofficially, we have to be cheerleaders for Muhs. We have to stand up for our teachers. We have to stand up for our students, all of them. We have to go out and try to find the money. We have to support our admin in finding the money and creating a budget. We need to be the support for the school. Yeah, we've got our 5 jobs. It goes further than that. Stop, she says.
I think it's been well said what our responsibilities are. But I would also like to take it an extra step. I believe that the board has to work on creating an atmosphere for the school and the community to come together. I think if we are create a way where we can have our businesses, corporations within the community, we can really begin to do things for the school. I know funding was talked about. We can, use our community to fund our schools. There's many things that we, the board, can do. So we have our 5 responsibilities, I agree. But I think we have to make sure that we create some kind of a system and we become just working together with the community. Because the community is what we need to really begin to look at. And the second thing is we need to involve our parents in the overall equation. We have to make sure that as a board, we do whatever we can to get our parents involved. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will have a minute and a half, and it's on the override. If you are a current district governing board member, how did you vote on moving the capital bond override for maintenance and operations issue forward to the voters, and why? If you are not a current governing board member, how would you have voted on moving the bond issue forward, and why? Would you consider a new effort to put a capital bond or override to the voters? And we will begin with Joe.
I would have supported, if I were on the board, the bond override. I'm disappointed that the board chose not to give the community the opportunity. Ultimately, it's the community that would decide. The question really is, would I, if I were on the board, would I have voted to put it to the community? And the answer is yes. Beyond that, I also felt that the bond issue was worthy of support. And I think as a board member, it would be incumbent upon me, given that position, to go out and advocate for it. I think one thing that I'd like to point out is that the process of developing a bond offer or a bond proposal, the override proposal, is a long process. It involves experts, it involves the administration, it involves the business manager. There was a lot of money spent. $103,000 were spent on those experts and that time. And that doesn't count the actual time of the superintendent and the business manager. So if we're going to talk about fiscal responsibility, I would use the term responsible stewardship of public funds. And that is not responsible stewardship. When you have the opportunity to turn this to the voters and let them choose, that's the thing to do.
James?
Yes and yes. More funding for the schools. I mean, what could be bad about that? And the bond goes to, I believe, facilities and potentially lunches and breakfasts. But I don't, and it's beyond me how the previous board could not even vote against the bond issue, but to vote to not even give voters the opportunity to vote on the bond issue. So, yes, yes.
Thank you. Carol Ann?
When you asked that question, I noticed I felt such rage at the thought of what was done to the voters, that you guys were not even allowed to vote on the bond. This board murdered it, and we desperately needed it. There were two people that voted for the bond. It was me, Austin Babcock. See you back there, Austin. We voted to send it to the voters. The other three people on the board voted to not even allow you to give us desperately needed funds for our buildings. I walk through those hallways, and when it's raining, there's buckets. There are buckets there. We've got 30-year-old fluorescent lighting that we now know is very bad for humans. We've got a cafeteria that cannot handle the need of all of these kids. They can't get fed. We can't feed them all. And this board murdered it. They didn't even send it to you. And I've said that 3 times, I'm not going to say anymore.
Thank you.
I was not part of the process that they went through to see if we wanted to have an override and or a bond, which I do believe in, as long as the bond or the override is a legitimate in its request. I did ask a lot of community citizens. I did talk to some teachers, even though I think the overall, as far as teachers, were for it. But from my understanding is that the bond that was trying to get passed, they didn't have all the details. I spoke to some citizens, and yes, they would have wanted to vote, but they would have voted no. So I was not part of the process, but what I do know right now, and again, I was not part of the process, so I don't know, but what I do know, I would have also voted no.
I also wasn't able to be a part of that decision. I read through that bond in pretty good detail, and I think I would have voted yes. I would have put it to the voters. I don't think that it was perfect, but I think that it was, like Joe said, there was a lot of time and money put into that bond to just even get it created and on paper. So, my inclination is to say that we let the voters make a decision on that. It's the taxpayers' money. They should have a say in it. Again, was it perfect? No, but I think that bonds are very valuable, and I think there were a lot of things in there that would have greatly benefited the school. So I would definitely be open to helping to create another one.
Thank you.
The next question you'll have 1 minute for, and it's regarding board opposing perspectives. As an individual governing board member, how would you handle a situation where the board takes a position which you do not agree with? Could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not? And we'll begin with James.
I think one of the most important things for the board members is to have reasonable, open-minded adults who can have rational discussion about board issues. They can agree to disagree, but talk about the facts, exchange opinions, not get heated about it, and come to a decision. And should the board come to a decision that I disagree with, it's my responsibility to move forward and disagree, but support that decision.
Thank you. Carol Ann?
I think I probably just answered this question with my talking about the bond. I totally disagreed with the decision that was made by the board. I showed up the next month, I cooperated, and we moved on. So, yeah, I can do that.
I think discussion is the key. Honest discussion with whatever the issue may be. And I too, once the vote takes place, if it goes against what I want, what I believe, I will support it. But I will try to do everything I can to make sure that it goes the way I feel it needs to go. But that's the beauty of what we have within a board. We have 5, and they're not all going to agree all the time. So you're going to have some disagreements, some debates. But again, I think that's the beauty of. So whatever we decide, once we vote, then I will follow it, and I'll be a good team member.
Thank you. Taylor?
Yeah, I agree with what many of them said. It's funny because when we're campaigning against each other, it's easy to talk about all the things we disagree on. But once you get into a board, no matter who you're sitting next to, you have to work together for a team because it's not about us. It's about the students, it's about the teachers and the community. And I actually went back and looked at some of the meeting minutes from the different board meetings over the years and looked at how often the board voted in opposition of each other, and it's way less than you would think that it is. So I think that we're all capable of accepting something. We have a vote, that's what it's for, if we disagree on something. But I definitely plan on coming in with an open mind, willing to have my mind changed on things, being positive and supporting whoever I'm sitting next to.
Thank you. Joe?
I'm going to agree with all that. I think that it's important to make an argument. It's important to lay out what it is you're advocating for, the reasons for it, and make a strong argument. But at the end of the day, you're quite right. At the end of the day, the board has to work together and move forward. And there's going to be disagreement. There's going to be almost split votes. There's going to be a lot of votes, as you noted. There's a lot of votes where there's really no debate. It's a pretty straightforward stuff. But where there are conflicts, I think we need to hear each other and value each other, respect each other, take a vote, move on.
Please come my way. Thank you.
The next question we'll have 1 minute for, and it's about the school week. Some candidates have shared their priorities of making Mingus a 4-day school week. Given the poor proficiency scores, how does each candidate feel about reducing school days will benefit the students? And we begin with Carol Ann.
First of all, I object to the wording of that question because there are not poor proficiency scores. That is not true. So, talk about 4-day school week. We explored this, we sent out lots of surveys. The teachers overwhelmingly told us that they wanted the 4-day school week. The parents overwhelmingly told us that they wanted the 4-day school week. The students were not surveyed. It would have been better if they had been. But you have to understand, a 4-day school week does not mean less time in the classroom. It does not mean less butts in the seat. It simply means that the day is longer and that kids actually have more time in a classroom without changing classes in the hallways. staff.
I was at a board meeting, and the issue was brought up about the proficiency rates by one of our current board member. And it did come out that the rates are low. Now, there's many reasons for that. But what I would say is I would be in favor of a 4-day work week provided, or school week, provided that Friday could be a day where we can bring the students in or make it a teaching day, or do something to help the student, maybe even throughout the summer. We have to help our students. And there's many reasons why we have those rates where we are. And there's no blame to, say it's that person's fault or that group. We need to find out why. But I would be in favor of a 4-day school week.
Yeah, I agree. I did some research into 4-day school week, and actually the school that our younger kids go to right now is on a 4-day school week. And initially it was very hard because when you have younger kids, it's difficult to know what to do with them on Fridays. Here's what I think is that I'm not for having just a day off on Friday. I'm not for that. I agree that if we are going to do a 4-day school week, we have to be very intentional about what happens on the 5th day. So personally, I think if you have a day dedicated for students who are falling behind, who need a reteach day, who need a tutor, who need to get caught up on their schoolwork so they can bring their grades up, I am all for that. I also do know that the parents were surveyed and they were for it. So again, taking into account that we want to make sure the parents have a voice, the teachers, they were for it. So I think that I would be open to it if we were very intentional about how we set it up.
The question of test scores is a complex question. The truth is that the number one determinant of test scores is the socioeconomics around the school. So this is a socioeconomic issue. What our schools need is more funding. What our schools need are breakfasts and lunches for our students. So it's not a simple thing. And if we talk about educational quality just through the language of test scores, we are really missing an important point. I think I personally would be for a 4-day school week based on what the community and the teachers, and I suspect the students would advocate for. I do think that, I'm not sure I agree that the 5th day should be a school day because it's a 4-day week. I think that the 5th day should be a day for students to take care of themselves and to be involved in other things.
Yes, I'm in favor of a 4-day work week. You have to do 5 days worth of work in 4 days, but nevertheless, I think, I worked in a corporation before moving here, and there was a lot of talk of work-life balance. Life is not all about work, it's not all about school. So having that bigger block of time for the kids and the teachers, I think, would be a tremendous benefit for spending more time for their families, doing things for their community, or maybe they just doing their homework. But yes, I'm in favor of the 4-day week.
It comes back to me.
I started.
The next question you'll have a minute and a half for, and it is on student achievement. How will you provide leadership as a governing board member on supporting well-rounded student achievement for Mingus Union High School enrolled students, given that primary responsibility?
I think there's a lot that we can do. But I think we first need to look at why some students are not performing the way they should. Could it be student absenteeism? Could it be post-COVID issues? There's things that are happening that our students, for whatever reason, in some cases are falling behind. I don't question the teachers. I think we have great teachers. But the fact is, that's where they are. I think we now as a board need to come up with some programs and find out why the proficiency rates are low. But can we have come up with a peer teaching program, a mentorship program with the teacher and the student, making sure that we look at the academic reports, helping our students stay on track with assignments, maybe assist some long-term goals with future education or career options. There's a lot that can be done. I remember when we had in Mingus a Strive for 5 that was, I thought, incredibly effective. When my son, my latest son, my youngest son I should say, when he went to school, I mean, it was done away with. I'm not sure why, or unless they still have it, I don't know. But how can we encourage our kids to keep on going? And I think that's something that we, the board, have to come up with programs to encourage our kids to become everything they are to be post-graduation.
Yeah, so this is again where I say that we need to really heavily involve the teachers and ask, do they have everything that they need to do their job well? Because their job is more difficult than we can ever imagine. I'm telling you right now, I couldn't do it, and parents would not want me to do it. But I think the other thing that we do is we as administration and as a board help to set standards and policies that the teachers feel comfortable to enforce. And those are things like removing the distractions, you know, that keep kids from learning and doing well in the classroom. Things like phone policy. I know we've cracked down on that this year, which I'm really happy to hear about, because the teacher's spending 2 hours of their day fighting with a kid about their stupid phone. How can they do their job well? I think that highlighting some of the things we already have in place, we have an awesome partnership with VACT. We have a dual enrollment program where students can earn college credits while they're still in high school. I'd love to feed into that. Any extracurriculars that we can do that get them life ready for if they want to open a business, they want to go into a trade, anything like that. I think those practical life skills, I would love to see a lot of dedicated time to preparing kids just to even go into an interview. It's you know, young kids nowadays, they have such anxiety about going through an interview or even calling a business and saying, are you hiring? So I think that those practical things, if we can feed that into the kids as much as possible, 100% I support.
I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about how, you know, what are we offering students that they can be excited about? And so I think, in part, this is a curricular question. This is an engagement question. How do we draw students more deeply? Let me give you an example. When LGBTQ students do not feel safe in school, when they cannot identify 4, 5, 6 faculty members who are supportive, their attendance, their lack of attendance increases, their GPA drops, the statements they make about whether they're feeling like they should or could go to college become much more dark. So there are cultural things that we can do in school that draws students into their learning and into the culture of the school. We need to make sure that the culture is inclusive and that it's engaging. And we need to make sure that teachers feel that they can teach topics about the real world that engages young people. Young people want to learn about the real world. Young people want to learn how to manage in the real world. They don't want sugar-coated. They want the real deal. They want the truth. And we need to make sure our teachers feel empowered to teach that.
I'll say encourage parental involvement. Get the parents to care about their kids' education and make sure they're doing the work. Maybe it's the grandparents or the aunts and uncles or whoever their caretakers are. Secondly, just simply provide more help to the people that need more help. I think we do that to an extent. I think we have the Mingus Academy that helps with that. I would say those are two of the main ways to help bring up achievement scores.
This is one of my favorite subjects. And yes, engagement, yes, all of the things, absolutely, obviously. But I think first we gotta feed these kids. Hungry kids don't learn. 51% of our students at our school are on the free and reduced meal program. I think that every single kid at our school should be able to eat breakfast and lunch without worrying about have they been, was mom able to pay for this week? That's the first thing, we gotta feed them. The second thing is, as Joe was saying, they've got to be safe. We have a large contingent of vulnerable students who over the last 2 years have been attacked by our board. That's not acceptable. You don't go after the gay kids, and you don't try to erase the gay kids, and you don't try to take away their books, and you don't stand up in board meetings and talk about how they're all going to hell. You don't do that. So, let's feed them, let's keep them safe.
The next question is 1 minute, and it's on finance. School finance is vastly different from business and personal finance due to the specific state and federal funding sources that are required to finance schools successfully. Please provide your expertise in school finance and give specific examples of how that expertise will be beneficial to decisions that will be made on behalf of the school.
So currently, right now, I think Mingus is getting about 40% of its financing from its federal financing, and a little over 40% is coming from tax dollars. So what I would say is what we can control is what we should definitely prioritize. So there is some funding that is tied to proficiency rates, test scores, performance. Obviously, enrollment is one as well. So, you know, what can we do about that? Well, we need to try to create a school that is desirable in every aspect possible to attract people, especially now there's school choice. We have the voucher program, so you know, we really have more competition to become a competitive school and a place where parents want to send their kids. So as much as possible in every avenue, like I said, whether it's test scores, whether it's our athletic program, our extracurricular activities, we need to be a desirable school where kids want to go and parents want to send their kids.
So I think that one of the major financial issues for public schools in Arizona is the voucher system. The voucher system, the ESAs are bleeding, they are hemorrhaging public schools. And so what we're doing is we're taking public money and we're putting it in private schools and private hands with no accountability. And that's not responsible stewardship of public monies. And that ignores the whole idea of the public, what we have in common and what we fund to have in common. So one of the things I would advocate is working through the Arizona School Boards Association to lobby the legislature to get rid of vouchers and to fund public schools, which are now 50th in the nation. In Arizona, we are 50th. And we need to rethink and reconstruct our commitment to public education and to these young people.
I'm really good at managing money. And I know a school is not a restaurant, and it's not a for-profit business, but I was able to come here. Part of the reason I came here is my nephew was driving our business, the restaurant, to bankruptcy, so I came here to reverse that. I was also able to manage a couple of cooperative housing corporations in New York to stay solvent. I agree with Joe, the ESA program is bad for public schools. Not only that, people aren't even, the money that's being funded to parents isn't even being fully spent. I think it's over $300 million that's been left sitting on the table. That comes directly out of Angus's state funding. So, and of course, as I learned with my restaurant, probably true with schools as well, having more money makes a lot of the other problems go away. So try to get more money, but manage it wisely.
What do I know about school finance? My eyes have been crossing, looking at the budget, looking at the financial statements every single month for 6 years. And school finance is different. It took me probably 2 years just to get a handle on it, because we get paid for the number of students who come and sit in the chairs. And then you get paid extra for other students, and it's very complicated. And thank God we have Lynn Leonard, our finance manager, because I'm right-brained, and she loves it. She's walking through the halls the other day, and I said, "How you doing?" She goes, "We're getting audited. I'm so excited." So we have one of the best financial managers in the country. Stop.
Unfortunately, the state legislature controls the lion's share of the district funding. And I think that we should go and approach the state. One thing that we could do possibly is encourage the passage of Prop 123 that right now the Governor Hobbs is trying to extend, something that Ducey started back in 2016. So that's a possibility. But I think we also need to become creative in what we're doing, because we can look at the budget every day. That's not going to change unless we take some things out. But I believe that we can start looking at our local community. Like I said before, corporations, businesses, grant writing. There's a lot of things that we can start looking at to help fund the school that is outside of what we've been used to. I think we need to become creative in trying to get more funds for the school.
The next question is 1 minute, and it is on funding, so maybe those of you that didn't speak to your experience could do that at the same time. The question is, Arizona still ranks at the bottom of the list for school funding. What will you do to advocate for increased funding for education in Arizona? What are the funding priorities for Mingus Union High School? And we'll start with Jill.
So we get about $1.3 million from the federal government, and in a budget that's, I think, around $13 million. I think we need to, I would go back to my previous answer to some extent. I think we need to advocate. I mean, if we, the school board, if the community, through the school board, does not stand up and advocate to the state legislature, say this is not okay. Being 50th is not okay. And I know the argument that you can't just throw money at a problem. But people who tend to say that are people with the money. So I do think money makes a difference. And we see that in the quality of education. You know, the truth is, a lot we've talked about, you know, the state funding, but local property taxes are another significant chunk. And, you know, different communities have different resources. So there's a great deal of inequity in Arizona, as with a number of states. So we need to advocate for that funding.
I agree. We need to advocate with the state legislature and also local town governments in the county. And the other part of that is more butts and seats, right? More kids at Mingus going to school every day means more funding in general. And kind of the more the merrier. We get more funding just by making us a better school, attracting maybe some of the kids going to the private schools to Mingus, because Mingus is so great, they want to go there.
Yeah, what everybody said. Obviously, our funding comes from the number of children that we have in the school. So we get them to come to the school. I didn't go to school because I had a math teacher. I went to school because there's theater, there's chess, there's choir, there's sports. there's the GSA, there's all of these other reasons that kids show up. They don't show up because they want to do math. They show up. I'm sorry, Mr. Renard. They don't all show up because they want to do math. Our favorite math teachers in the front here. We make Mingus into a school that kids want to go to. And it's that simple. That's the funding. And we also vote for people who will fund the schools at the state and the federal level.
I agree with what's been said, but the issue is what do we do now? And as I said before, I think we need to become creative. I do also believe that we need to advocate for additional funding. And we as a district alone, we may not be able to make a lot of inroads, but what if we become part of a coalition for us to come together with other districts in the state to see what we can come up with. But I also believe, again, we have to be creative now. For instance, what if we partner with the community, create a classroom fund? I know some teachers, out of their pocket, they have to pay for some expenses for some things for their classroom. Let's use crowdfunding. There's a Rally Up program that is very, very good. I think that we can monetize our web presence. Let's start selling advertising on our website. What can we do now? And that's what I'm talking about. Stop.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. And you know, we have two small businesses, my husband and I'm the accountant for those. So I get how budgeting and making sure that we're spending the dollars in the right way and prioritizing the things that will affect the students. So like Carol Ann said, making sure that they're fed, making sure that facilities are on point, making sure that we have all the resources available to educate them. I definitely think that as a school board, we have to advocate for additional funding however we can. And like Frank said, involve the community. If we went out on the street today and asked all of you, hey, would you like to help us raise money for our school? We need X, Y, and Z. I don't imagine anybody saying no to that. So being creative, managing the budget, advocating for additional funding, for sure.
The next question is a minute and a half, and it's on teachers. What are your views on the issue with teacher training, recruiting, and retention? This is a huge issue across our country with the cost of living. And we'll start with James.
They're raising our kids, in conjunction with parents and guardians. I think teachers need to be listened to and respected, and we count on their expertise. And there's going to be things they have to do that they don't like, but they should be paid more. They should be encouraged to be more involved in the school, not just education, but all the extracurricular activities. I think that kind of sums it up.
You good? Can I have his 30 seconds?
No. Nice try.
First of all, my son is a teacher at Muhs Union High School. And I could not be any prouder of this man right here.
Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. So what, teacher retention? First of all, that goes back to the conversation about financing. Because we get paid more money at Mingus, the more teachers we have that have been there longer. We get less for a new teacher, we get a whole lot more for a 20-year teacher. So teacher retention is very important in a funding conversation, but also in a continuity conversation. Because these guys need to know each other. They need to know who's got their back. They need to be able to look across the hallway and go, oh, Sarah's in trouble. And you need that continuity. So teacher retention, obviously pay, obviously benefits. and just appreciate the job that these people do and listen to them when they tell us something. All right, I'm good. She didn't have to stop me.
Governor Hobbs just finished a survey, and they spoke to 1,000 teachers that left the profession back in 2023. And yes, pay was one of the reasons why. The top three. The second that was very close to pay was safety. The teachers did not feel safe because of the behavior of the students. And the third thing was that they didn't feel respected. So I think those three things we need to work on, especially the safety issue. And I would also go as far as hiring new teachers. I know of several individuals right now who have graduated from Muhs, and they wanted to become teachers, but they couldn't because they didn't have the finances. So one thing that I have seen happen in other districts throughout the country is where the local business people came together and they formed a fund that would pay for the teacher, or the person that wants to become a teacher. They would pay for their college with the thing that they would have to serve at least 4 years in that school. So I think if we come with a community agreement, come together, why not go and start doing something for those that are in our schools, or sophomores or juniors that want to become teachers? Let's do something for them and pay their education, knowing that they're going to be with us for 4 years after that.
Yeah, going back to everything that was said, I mean, teachers are, again, they're the most important thing that you know, the most important asset that we have. The average teacher salary at Muhs is around $73,000. There was a 4% increase, which from last year, which is great. We also have a classroom site fund that allows for additional funding for our teachers. But again, I don't think that salary is the only thing. I think that we need to, again, have our teachers' backs. We need to be able to enforce the rules that we have in place, so that they feel that when they need to, you know, discipline the students, or when they need to, you know, when they need to do their job, that we as an administration, as the board, have their back and make the most positive classroom environment that we can.
Thank you. Joe?
I've been involved in teacher training for 17 years at Northern Arizona University. One of the great myths that I hear is that there's a teacher shortage. There actually isn't a teacher shortage. There are enough teachers, they're choosing not to teach. And this is because of pay and working conditions and, in a word, respect. There's a line that I repeat often that I really like, and that is that teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. So we need to make sure that teachers are feeling supported, that they have what they need. At Muhs, retention is actually very good. So there's, you know, really that's not an issue. And having teachers retained provides more money. Teachers who have greater longevity, we actually get more money from the state. So the issue is more about recruiting. And the 4-day school week is a great recruitment tool. There's school districts who have gone to teacher housing or support for teacher housing. So that's another thing to look at. So I think that it's a combination of, okay, so what teachers, right now, students at NAU who are in the teacher education program, their tuition's free. That's the state paying them. So
Needs to come my way. The next question is 1 minute, and it's on employee, student, and parent involvement. What role should employees, students, and parents have in the running of the school and its governing process? Please be specific for each constituent.
I will do my best with that question because I was playing with my kid here. So, what role should students, staff, and parents have in deciding the direction of the school? Well, absolutely, we're going to listen to all of our stakeholders, and we want to hear from our stakeholders. My email, my phone is published and easy to find. I spend a lot of time to do that. But students don't run our school. Teachers don't run our school. Parents don't run our school. We listen and we do our best. But we can't have 9 million bosses. Okay, I'm done.
What role? Well, I think we need to listen. I agree we don't need too many bosses, but at the same time, they have something to say. I think that parents sometimes feel alienated because the school may do X, Y, and Z and trying to help the student, but they don't talk to the teacher. To the parent. And so the parent feels like they're left out. We need to include our parents in everything that is done. I think students, we need to hear from them. I know of some students that I've spoken to, and they felt bullied. Bullied by other students, bullied by teachers. We need to listen to them. Why does it happen? And then the staff. I think the staff, because that is, I believe, the main part of our school. We need to listen to our staff, not only from our teachers, but to the support staff as well. They have a lot to say, and we need to listen, and I believe we can learn from them.
Yeah, obviously the employees, I think we need to listen to them as far as what do they feel like they need, what do they not have, because they're, important to everything that we do. Students, I think, are an extremely important voice that I think we don't hear enough from because they're not, they don't show up at our board meetings very often. I wish that they did. I wish that they would come and say, what is it that you love about the school? What is it that you're struggling with? If you feel like there is a culture problem, tell us about it. What do we need to maybe do with our policies to try to keep that from happening? Parents, extremely important that parents are involved. It saddens me to see how many parents aren't involved. I think that parents need to come to the board meetings as well. They need to approach teachers if they feel that something is off. If they don't agree with a certain something that's happening, they need to speak up and go to the teachers and try to resolve that. I just think overall more dialogue is best. Open communication is best, and all the stakeholders involved are important.
So I think that we've left out a group, employees, students, parents, and the larger community. I'm a little bothered by the framing of parents' rights. And we spoke to that a bit earlier about the role of censorship for everyone else, imposed on everyone else. I think parents should have rights, and in fact they do have rights in the state of Arizona. But the community, this is a community school. It's a public school. It's our common good, and we need to consider that. We need to reach out to students. They're not going to come to the board. We need to come to them and pay attention, attend their meetings, go to their groups, talk to them, provide space for them to communicate with us. And of course, employees, we need to pay attention because they're on the ground and they're seeing what's happening, and they can really help us as educational leaders.
Sounds like I agree with pretty much what everybody says. I think we should listen to the teachers and administrators first, and then the parents, and then the students. Students are not all adults yet. However, the board gets to decide. That's why you're electing us. Right? We have to take everybody's opinions into account and figure out what's best for the students and the teachers.
Do you know how to juggle?
The next question is 1 minute, and it's on life issues and counselors. What measures are in place to ensure the safety, security, and mental health of students and staff on campus? How will you support students struggling with life issues? What is the role of counselors in the school, and do you have any recommendations for change?
I believe that the counselors are very, very important, especially when it comes to mental health issues. If we can take our students, whomever may be struggling in whatever area, and they feel safe in coming to one of our counselors or whomever, if they feel safe, I believe they will come. But again, I believe we have to create that safe zone for them. I know some that just will not go and speak to some of our counselors or or teachers because they just don't feel safe. And so I believe we have to create that safe zone for them to come, because I believe that what we have in our counselors, our teachers, we could help our students.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the counseling resources in the high school, especially today, I think that teenagers nowadays struggle with way more than any of us ever struggled with. And so I think that having those counselors there and on-site able to provide resources to students is really important. Again, I think that the conversations that take place, the counseling that happens, I think the parent should be, the grandparent, whoever the caretaker is, should be looped in so that it's a continuum from the school to home and vice versa. I will say that as far as safety is concerned, I know that already this year we've implemented some new safety measures, which I've heard really good things about. So continuing to support that as a board member, for sure, and looking at other potential counseling options we might have to support our students.
Okay, I think that this is a really, really important issue. And we know that student mental health and the mental health of frankly, a lot of people in our culture has taken a hit since COVID. A lot of what goes on in school in terms of mental health issues is tied to trauma. And so one of the things I think we need to do is make sure that our teachers, our administrators, our motorcyclists are informed. And so one of the things that I just want to throw out, and maybe I can come back to it, is social emotional learning, which is one of those buzzwords that people react to, but it's about helping people deal with issues of relationship, communication, and feelings. And I don't know why in the world we would not be interested in helping adolescents on those kinds of topics.
That's a tough question. I agree with what Joe says about social emotional learning. I remember being a teenager, and based on that, I would never want to be a teenager again. It's probably one of the hardest times of everybody's life. And how do you support that, especially the weird kids, the emo kids, the gay kids, whatever? You have to culturally support a positive, accepting environment, and that includes things like teacher training, training of administrators, and also training of the students.
Thank you.
Could you read the question again, please?
Certainly. What measures are in place to ensure the safety, security, and mental health of students and staff on campus? How will you support students struggling with life issues? What is the role of counselors in the school? And do you have any recommendations for change?
And I've got a minute and a half.
A minute.
Okay, first of all, our counselors in our school are amazing. They rock. I pray for them every night. Because even though Mingus has more counselors per student than most schools, we don't have enough. We need more. We've got kids that are still trying to get their head around what happened at COVID, and they need help. We've got all of the problems of today. 30 seconds, wow. Our kids need help, and they need to be safe. And our new Verkada system at Mingus, yes, is wonderful. Cameras in every classroom and every hallway and all sorts of good stuff. Okay.
The next question you have a minute for, and it's on accomplishments and challenges. What do you believe Mingus Union High School has been successful in accomplishing? And what do you believe are the greatest challenges facing the school?
So accomplishments, I think there's a lot of them. Like I said earlier, I think that our partnerships with BACT and our dual enrollment programs are awesome for kids. Our graduation rate is really high, so that's very impressive. I think that we've been able to, like I said, already every year I feel like I hear of more improvements, more improvements, more improvements. I definitely think that we're headed in the right direction. I will say that I do think that we have opportunities with bringing up our proficiency rates. I do. And how we do that, I think it's going to be a deep dive into a lot of different things and getting that input from the teachers and the students and figuring out, is a 4-day school week going to be beneficial in helping that? I know that for my daughter last year as a freshman, she kind of struggled to manage all of the workload and feel like she always had the right support and resources in figuring how to do something and those types of things. So I think that there's always opportunities.
I think there's a tremendous amount about Mingus that we can all be proud of. I think that I went to open house recently, and I went to every student group, talked to every student at every table, and I have to tell you, they were so engaged, and they were so committed to what they were involved in. They were excited, they wanted to share, even things that I didn't find particularly interesting, they just thought were fascinating. So I think that Mingus, the teachers, the leadership, the structures are being successful with the students. And that's job one, isn't it? So you're right. I think, we have to look at other metrics, but we have to keep in our vision, how are these kids doing? And in terms of how they're feeling and how well are they engaged. I also, and stop.
I think accomplishments, I think recently we achieved a B grade, formerly C grade in proficiency. We actually do have good teacher retention, so that's a good accomplishment. I think our extracurricular activities are great, especially for a relatively small high school.
For closing statements. Candidates will have 1 minute for the closing statement, and we will do it in reverse order of the opening statements. So we will begin with Carol Ante.
First of all, thank you all so much for being here and sticking with it and going through it. Wait, like that? Okay. All right, there we go. Thank you all. And just so that y'all know, I was just informed that the Mingus Union Education Association, which are our teachers, has just endorsed Jim and Joe and I for school board. So that's huge. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of these smiling faces. So I have been on the Mingus Union School Board for going on 6 years. If I am not re-elected, the next longest person on the school board will be at a little bit over 2 years. So enough said on that. Stop.
I think a lot of the answers have shown that there's a lot of agreement between the 5 of us sitting at the table here. So you may be asking yourself, what's the difference? Who do I vote for? So let me try to highlight. Carol Ann has the experience on the board that none of the other 4 of us have. I think Joe has the experience as a lifelong educator, and I've seen working with him for the last few years, his ability to kind of research and do his homework and figure out the right answer to stuff. I You know, and an outsider to something like school board work, but as an engineer for 35 years, my whole job was solving problems. And, you know, look at the issues, collect the data, and figure out the best solution. So you know, I think that's kind of what differentiates us from the other three candidates.
I also want to thank everybody up here, and I appreciate the perspectives that have been offered, and I think it enriches us. I am seeing some differences as well, and one of the differences that I want to raise is I see coming from our opponents a more punitive, a more surveillant, a more judgmental, and a more normalizing response to what they consider problems. I think when we talk about the behavior of students, we always have to think about the word and the concept of context. What's going on? How do we find out what's going on? How do we help? So, you know, we believe in guiding students into sophisticated, complex, and accurate understandings of the social world. And this requires a recognition of the lived context of students and their families. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you to everybody who came out and supported, no matter which candidates you're supporting here tonight. I think we all need the support for sure. Frank, Ashley, and I, we are running on back to the basics. And there's been a lot of talk of what does that mean and, you know, what are we not saying? We've said what we're running on and we stand by it. It's academic excellency, it's parent involvement, and it's student safety. Those are the three core values of things that we want to prioritize when we get on the school board. And as far as, you know, the things that we want to protect against, we don't believe that the school is a place where politics should play a role ever, whether it's on the left or it's on the right. Our job is to educate the students. Our job is to give them the facts, and our job is to prepare them for the next part of their life, no matter what that is. Our personal political viewpoints or our personal opinions on things, that's not for the kids to deal with. So we hope that we get your vote. Thank you.
I too see differences between
Come on, folks.
Not to say anything. Let's keep it down.
Let's not be rude.
I also see differences between us and our opponents. We do believe in back to the basics. And this is just not a phrase. Ironically, you have throughout the country where states are going back, and the phrase is back to the basics. You have Governor Hochul in New York just started a program because the reading proficiencies in the elementary and middle schools were lacking, so she started a program called Back to the Basics. We believe that we are to do everything we can for our kids as far as the basics are concerned. I was at a board meeting where we said, or they said, that the kids coming from middle school to the high school, they cannot read. More so the reason for back to the basics. That's the difference between us and them. So I also ask for your vote. Taylor, Ashley, and myself, we do have a passion. We may not have the education as one or others, but we do have the passion for our kids. Thank you.